Folks, sitting with me at this time is none other than the Blue Meanie, ECW icon. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm here at the Pro Wrestling World.
Bud Carlson, Storm Pro Wrestling World.
Has an amazing. This is an amazing place. If you're ever in the area and you're a wrestling fan, you have to come here. It's fantastic. It's literally a pro wrestling museum.
And you're actually from there in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, I live right in South Philly, right near the ECW arena. I'm about 45 minutes from here. Yeah, and I love this area too because it's such a rich wrestling history. You know, WWF used to do their TV tape. It's at Ag Hall, and grew up watching that TV, and it's a great area.
My friend Adam here says that when he walks through here, he feels like he's walking in the '90s. And did you feel that way?
It's fantastic. I've been wrestling for 22 years, but I'm still a fan at heart. You know, that's why I put up with what I put up with in the business. You know, all the shenanigans that go on. But yeah, this place is fantastic. I'm walking around, you know, and I'm supposed to be doing a signing here, and I'm too busy like looking around at everything, being like a kid in a candy shop. You know, I'm like a kid in a cereal aisle. I want that. You know.
A lot of fans ask about the incident from ECW One Night Stand. I was there. I mean, it's like beating a dead horse, but you touched on it. People think you still have heat with JBL, but obviously that's not the case. I mean, he's a good guy, and I mean, he's apologized for that.
Yeah, long story short, we worked out our differences and shook hands like men and made up. You know, I could sit here and have a beef with the guy years later, but when you hold a grudge with somebody, it does more damage to you than the person you have the grudge with. But you know, ultimately he apologized, and I was a fan of his before the incident. You know, before we had our issues, but now that we worked out our issues and we're cool, it's great. Because I'm still a big fan of his. I think he does great work on the play-by-play, the commentary, and stuff like that, and he's made his mark in the business. He's made history in this business, and he's a good guy I'm happy to be able to call him friend.
What are some of your fondest memories in ECW?
Just every night, man. It's just I pinched myself. It was like going to. It's like being It's like I call ECW the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The fans were rabid. They knew the chants, they knew the songs, they knew what to do, and then part of it was like the movie Slapshot, or sometimes we had to fight the fans, plenty of riots, but just every night, just the reaction of the fans, and just being able to do what I wanted to do since I was a kid, and I'm very grateful that ECW, everybody from Raven and Stevie and Paulie and Tommy. And Tracy Smothers. Tracy Smothers is an unsung hero in ECW. He helped a lot of the young guys. He helped me, and he would help all the young guys, take them in the ring, and do almost like a seminar before every show. So, yeah, just being blessed to work with Tracy Smothers every night.
You touched on this in the Rise and Fall at ECW DVD, which was one of cult favorites. When Raven when they did the whole crucifixion angle, you as a Christian, I'm a Christian, I mean, how were you offended at all? I mean, the crowd was certainly offended by that.
In hindsight, when I saw the reaction it had on people, I felt bad. I mean, ECW always kind of pushed the envelope a little bit. We were always on the edge of the line, and pardon the pun, that was the night we kind of crossed the line. I know it was an ECW show called The Night We Crossed the Line, but we literally crossed the line that night, and you just feel the vibe, when it happened, and then. Forget the reaction in the crowd once we walked back in the locker room, and everybody was just like, whoa, and it's just like.
And Raven had to go back out and apologize. And do you think his apology was sincere? I mean, he kind of knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he takes pride in saying he gave the most sincere apology, but I mean, he believes in his art, but growing up, raised Catholic, Christian, whatever, and. Having, my grandma's uber religious and my mom's uber religious, I was like, oh, I hope they don't see this. And luckily they didn't, because it never aired until the DVD came out. But
were you there the night of the mass transit incident?
Oh, my God, yeah. I was just watching something on YouTube about that. That was a crazy night, but it's unfortunate for everybody involved. It's unfortunate that ECW had that incident, but it's also unfortunate that the kid lied. He lied to the company. He lied to Paul. He said he was trained by Killer Kowalski. He wasn't. He said he was over 18. He was 17. And the kicker of that night was Killer Kowalski used to come to our shows. Normally he would have been at that show. He brings the students. We work out in the ring before the show. And he probably, if he was there, he could have said, "Oh, that's not my student." And he could have called the kid out. For whatever reason, Killer missed that show. And the kid wanted to work. He wanted to work as Ralph Cramden. He wanted to do the bus driver gimmick, even though he looked like a cop. And the funny thing is, I thought he was security from the building. He's in the locker room, and he's walking around, and he's like, we had pitchers of water and stuff, and I was like, why is that guy drinking our stuff? Why's the security guard eating our catering, whatever ECW catering was? But I was like, why is he? And then I was like, oh, he's a wrestler? Oh. And he sits down next to Taz, and he lights up a cigarette, and Taz is like Mr. Health. Taz just shot him a look. And then, they're calling the match, and, this kid, he's like, yeah, but I want to do this and that. And they're just like, the Dudleys and, New Jack, and we're just like looking at him like, just stop. And
do you feel New Jack was too harsh on him?
He was ticked off, Put this way, I'm very grateful New Jack never took liberties with me, because New Jack always protected me in the ring, and there's been times where he easily could have taken advantage, and he didn't. But that night, just like I said, it was unfortunate for everybody.
It's funny you mention New Jack, because he never really, New Jack has buried a lot of people that he didn't like. He's not shy to say who it, but he never badmouthed you. I think a lot of wrestlers never really. I never heard anybody badmouth you at all. What do you think that is from? That you never really had any run-ins with a lot of the boys.
Just I keep to myself. I try to keep the mood lively. I'd like to. If we walk in the locker room, I like to keep the mood cheerful, and especially back in the day when you're on the road, a couple hundred times a year, and if you're living like every day is like the movie Groundhog's Day, where you're just living the same day, airport, rental car, hotel, back to your car, back to the hotel every day. But I was always easy to work with. I never I really wasn't a gossiper, I really wasn't, a crap talker. I'm trying to keep my language clean here, but yeah. It's just, I try not to stir the pot. I showed up with my bag. I sat in the corner, kept my mouth shut, and then once I got established within the locker room, my personality came out, and
you did a moonsault like nobody else,
and that's
a lot of people.
That's what got me my job. Basically, Raven saw me do a moonsault in the Indy show in Pittsburgh. He said, we need that. I need that in my act, because Raven if you watch a Raven match, he's always having guys run interference and stuff like that. And listen to him call a match is like going to school, You learn so much from listening to Scotty call a match, and I was so fortunate to work with him. But yeah, he saw me do the moonsault. He's like, he's got to be a part of my act. The Dog and Pony show.
Who was the toughest guy legitimately in the ECW locker room?
I mean, we had a locker room full of bruisers, but don't get Tracy Smothers mad at you, because he there's a Mischief Night, the night before Halloween, ECW. We're in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. We used to run the Lulu Temple, but we're in a new building. We're at the Armory, and there's a crowd full of kids, college kids from the local college. They're all there, being college kids. And one of them, long story short, the Gangsters are in the ring, the Dudleys are in the ring, I think the Eliminators, and then Balls and Axel are coming in the ring. And one of these college kids grabs Axel, and they all start pounding on him. Bad move. Everybody in the locker room clears out. I mean, everybody in the ring who sees us jumps in the crowd, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I'm getting it back to Tracy Smothers. Tracy Smothers runs out there in a towel. He just took in a shower, and he's like yelling at the cops. Come on, man. Because, somebody called the cops, so the riot police show up. And then they come with the canines. He starts shadowboxing these canines. And Tommy Dreamer literally had to drag him and said, Tracy, stop. He was willing to fight. Fight these dogs. But I got so many Tracy Smothers stories, man. One of the toughest guys in the ECW locker room. Yeah, for sure.
Rob Van Dam, did he ever tell you to pick a hand?
No. I've heard. I've seen him use that on a few people, but luckily I always got along with Rob.
Were you there the night he did pick a hand with Taz?
I missed that by 5 minutes.
What was that about?
I don't know. They had a beef. In wrestling, it's like the phone game or the grapevine. I'll say something to you, you'll say something to somebody else, and by the time it gets back to that person, it's morphed into something totally different. I'm sure that's what happened. I'm sure Taz said something, and by the time it got to Rob, it was probably the furthest thing. That's how the beef with me and with JBL got started. I said something, and by the time it got to him, it was probably something totally way different than what I originally said. So that's the only thing, that's how wrestling works. Yeah, guys like to stir the pot, and they like to embellish and add on to it. But it was an unfortunate incident, and, luckily they've mended, difference.
What is some of the, is there a backstage fight or something that sticks out in your head in ECW that happened?
Nah. I mean, the locker room was competitive. Everybody wanted to have the best match. Everybody wanted to have the best spot on the card, and people were competitive that way. But I never really saw a fight, like a fist fight. But if there was any kind of argument, it was usually squashed.
Did you get a lot of heat when Stevie Richards left for WCW when you guys were in the middle of a hot run with the whole BWO?
Well, I think Raven left, and then Stevie followed. And then there was a moment where me and Nova had to kind of sit on the bench because, I can see, I totally understand it from Paulie's perspective. I'm going to put these guys on TV and they'll be the next to go. So when he saw we were staying, then we started working feud with, the FBI and stuff like that. And then we had our first tag team match on WrestlePalooza against the FBI. So that was like our coming out party as a tag team. So. Yeah, we had to sit it out for a second until we realized we weren't going to WCW as well.
What was your favorite match in ECW or WWE for that matter, all time?
All time, man. It's so weird. I hate watching my matches because I'm always picking them apart. I think most wrestlers hate watching their matches. But I had
something that you get the most praise for. A lot of fans come up to you and say, "I like this match."
Believe it or not, Blue Dust against Gold Dust, I get a lot for that, and that's another match I can't watch myself wrestle. I don't know why. It's just there's a lot of stuff going into that match. Dustin had hurt his back. We really couldn't do that much, and we wanted to go longer, but we couldn't. So I think we could. I don't like watching it because I know we could have done more, but with the amount of time we were given and what he was able to do because of his back, we saw it a good match. It just. And I nitpick my own stuff. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I butcher myself.
That's what makes you a great performer. What did Scott Hall think about with the whole blue guy thing?
Scott loved it. Scott Hall told me that he used to rib Kevin Nash because he goes, well, the Blue Meanie's the blue guy is the leader of the BWO, and he's me, so I should be the leader of the NWO. Joe, like ribbing each other. But all those NWO guys were super cool about it, and what's it? Imitation is a serious form of flattery, and we never did it to punk anybody out or make fun. We're just doing wrestling commentary, like social commentary. We were like the Weird Al Yankovic of wrestling, doing parodies and stuff like that. Whatever was hot at the time, we did it, put our own spin on it, And I think we offered a unique perspective to ECW where, there's so much violence. You have to bring it back down a little bit. So we come out, we do our comedy stuff, and it's a break from the chaos. You have a little laugh with, Meanie and Stevie and Nova, and then back to the chaos, or they would have the girls do something, and when you book a show, you gotta have ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, ups and if you keep going up, where do you go? But if you bring them back down, make them laugh a little bit, which what we tried to do. I think we offered a unique perspective into the extreme.
You came in pretty hot in WWF in 19. I think it was 99 when you 98, but you actually wrestled in WrestleMania in Philadelphia.
Oh, that was 99. Yeah, I did. It's so cool. I'm a 100% Philly guy. I love Philly. I love all the sports teams. I love the city. If you come from Philly, I'll support you. Any music, stuff like that. So not only did I debut in ECW in Philly, I debuted for WWE in Philly, and I had my WrestleMania moment in Philly, my hometown. So it's very storybook. I've had a charmed career where I got to do some cool stuff in my hometown, the city I was born, and it's amazing.
There was a rumor that around that time, and Public Enemy, that they're also from Philadelphia, that they had so much heat when they were in WWE that because of the stigma from them, because you came around the same time, that you got heat because of them. Was that true or no?
No. I think their deal came from, well, everybody knows now that ECW was technically part of WWE because Vince was helped fund it here and there. And anytime somebody was willing to leave, Paulie always pushed them, go to WWE. If Tommy Dreamer said it in the Rise and Fall ECW, if you went to WCW, you're basically joining the Taliban. You're joining this evil organization, WCW, in Paulie's mind. But, so instead of going WWE, Public Enemy went to WCW. When Paulie had already gotten them a tryout. They had a tryout match with the smoking guns and stuff like that. So Paulie took that a little bit to heart. So when they left WCW, they went back to ECW for a short stint. And then they went to WWE. And their heat came from they were having a match with the Acolytes. And they're supposed to do this thing. And they're in the gorilla position getting ready to go to the ring. And last second, they tried to change the finish. So Bradshaw and Ron Simmons, who are legit badasses, go, we're just going to go out there and beat the crap out of them, and that was it, I mean, you're the new – I teach – I'm a coach at the Monster Factory, and I try to teach the kids. The wrestling business is a lot like high school. It's like going to school. You're always reestablishing yourself. You could be the coolest kid up to 8th grade, but then you graduate 8th grade, and you go to high school, and you become a freshman, right? So you have to reestablish yourself in high school. You could go to become a senior in high school. You could be the coolest kid in high school, but then you graduate and you go to college, and now you're a freshman again, and you're going to do all the freshman stuff all over again. You have to reestablish yourself in college. You go through college, you be the coolest guy in college, but you graduate, and now you have to go take an internship where you're getting coffee until you reestablish. You're doing all the gopher stuff and reestablishing yourself. So when you leave ECW to go to WWE, they don't care what you did before. This is the WWE now, and you're going to do things the WWE way. So they didn't really do much to reestablish themselves to the locker room, to the writers, and stuff like that. So that's typically where their heat came from. They walked in, even though Ted, Rocco Rock Teddy, been in the business for 20 years at that point, you still have to, warm up to everybody, and everybody's got to warm up to you. And that locker room was competitive as could be, too. So, and people, they're like, here's another guy possibly taking my spot.
Didn't you get some flack because you got a first-class ticket and you were sitting?
Oh, yeah, that was a rib. It was my first week in business, and I'm going.
But you booked your own first-class?
No, they bought it. It was my first weekend in. I debuted that Sunday on Sunday Night Heat. We did Raw in Baltimore. I was going to drive from Baltimore to the next TV, which was that Tuesday when they did every other week live, and then they would tape the next Raw that Tuesday in Connecticut. So I was going to drive from Baltimore to Connecticut. I was like, indie wrestler, I'm so used to driving. They're like, no, idiot, we fly you. All right, so they bought me a ticket. I get my plane ticket. I go to sit there. I'm like, 1A. It's first class. And I was like, me being green, and I never really flew that much. You know, ECW towards the end, I kind of started flying, but I'm sitting there, and I knew I was in trouble when Mick Foley walked on the plane and looked at me and went, "Oh, Meanie." I was like, "Mick, what do I do? What do I do?" And I got ribbed, and we landed, and I got pulled aside by Gerald Briscoe and Jack Lanza, and Briscoe was like, "Look, we know you're new here, but you're not going to do that again." I was like, "Absolutely not." And Bob Holly spoke up for me because I was legit terrified somebody was going to do something to my bag. I was like, "Oh, I hope they don't poop in my bag," or something like that, And Bob's like, "I don't think they poop in bags anymore. I don't know."
I don't think X-Pac was there at the time when you were.
Luckily, X-Pac, me and him have a special connection because we were broken into the business by the same lady named Phyllis Lee. And she was basically like a den mother to a lot of the wrestlers, where Sean was at Dean Malenko's father's school, Malenko Wrestling Academy. And I almost went there because I was talking to this lady, Phyllis Lee, but financials wasn't panning out, so she recommended Al Snow's school. So I go to Al's, and I started hanging out with Phyllis because she's right there in Ohio. And she would always brag about how she helped Sean, and she was proud of X-Pac, just like he was her own son. He was her own son. So she just passed away recently. So me and Sean have been bonding over Phyllis stories. But luckily he didn't rib me or nothing like that. I never really got ribbed too hard. I was just talking to somebody right now. If he did a signing like this, and I'm here and Owen Hart's there, I would sign my signature, pass it over for Owen to sign, and Owen would sign his signature, but underneath your signature, he'd go, "Please help me," or "Call the police. I'm very lonely. I find you oddly attractive." He would write all this stuff and make it look like you wrote it to the person. So Owen was a great ribber.
Last question. Where could fans see you now, or you have any future projects or plans ahead for 2017?
I'm currently a coach at the Monster Factory in Paulsboro, New Jersey. Go to monsterfactory.org if you want to get into professional wrestling. There's some good schools out there, but we pride ourselves or trying to run our stuff kind of like the Performance Center in Florida. We pretty much do the same workout regimen as they do. We like to consider ourselves a primer if you want to make it in the business.
Is Larry Sharp still hands-on?
No, it's under new ownership with Danny Cage. Danny runs it now. He Larry got tired of chasing people for money. You know how it is. People say they want to be a wrestler their whole career. They put down their money and they take their first fall in the ring and they go, "Ooh, maybe I don't want to do this." Well, hey, we made an agreement. So, but Danny took it over. Larry loved the way he ran things. He said, "Here." And Danny Cage, the new owner, has brought it out of the Stone Ages. He's got there was no website, there was no Twitter, now he's got a full Twitter account. He's got a full Facebook dedicated to it, and we have our own TV network, the MF network, which it's like $5 a month, and you get to see all our shows, see all our training seminars, and all that stuff. And I'm doing that. I like to consider myself more of a life coach, than anything. Yeah, Monster Factory. I try to be the cool uncle. Danny's the heel, and I'm the cool uncle. And here's the good things I did, and here's the bad things I did. Don't do them. But I'm doing that. I'm.
Any shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees?
Oh my God, yeah. This one right here, the BWF&O. Go to prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie. If you want to follow me on Twitter, go to twitter.com/Blue Meanie BWO, which is the same on Instagram as well, Blue Meanie BWO. And you can see me on Facebook under my real name, facebook.com/Brian.Heffron, Heffron.
You know what? There's a couple of fake accounts. I'm going to email. We're friends on Facebook. I'm going to send you. So we're going to shut down some of these accounts.
Why would somebody want to pretend to be me? I don't get it. I mean, pretend to be The Rock.
You're the Blue Meanie.
I know I am, but I mean, if you're going to be fake anybody, aim higher. Get a life. Jerks.
Blue Meanie, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.